right,
Yeah,
I'm hitting
We're all
record.
excited.
We
Am I
are.
the first or?
No, we're in the first batch of 8 people we're interviewing. What is the show? Do you want to tell? We do this at the top of every show anyway, so you may as well tell them what we're doing here.
Occupational Therapy with Jingle Jared. No, he cannot be called Jingle Jared anymore now that he has left Jingle Punks. And as we know, he is the, Bach and Mozart of jingle writing.
How about if I call him Jingle Frank? Can I call him Jingle Frank?
That might work.
You can. I think it's the jingle part that's the problem.
Oh, the jingle part's the problem, not
You
your
might need
name?
to worry about that.
Legally, well,
okay.
not legally, just contractually.
Yep. There's
For
a big
48
contract.
months.
For 40
How about-
months, he's not allowed to do any
So I got to
competing
find a
jingles.
new
how
hobby or
about-
job.
Jared Dangles.
That works.
Jared Dingles?
I knew a guy named Jared Dangles.
Jared Dangles.
Did you really?
But-
Jared Chimes? Jared-
Chimes.
Jared.
Jared. I like
Oh,
Pod Jared. Let me see. If
No,
it's-
we're good. We're good. Just-
So basically, I'm kind of acting as a, in between, as a therapist for Jared to help him find his new job. And we're basically tracking down experts in their field. We've interviewed some of the top rock photographers, actors, musicians, etc. across
NBA
all
players.
boards, NBA players. And now we're talking to you, Craig Susser, owner of Craig's Restaurant here in
That
West
is-
Hollywood,
that is
California.
true.
This is
The
one
one
of the more
thing,
notorious
though, that everybody
places.
has in common is they're masters of their craft. So if I had to describe, whenever people ask me why I go to this place so much, it is, I would say that in the hospitality business, this is the Mount Everest of hospitality. In fact,
That's very sweet.
if people treated me this nice in my work life or my family life, there wouldn't be the trail of tears that there are today.
well, we treat you that well because we actually don't know you that well.
That's
But anyway.
true, and they're paid. It's very transactional, but that is a thing where it's like some places, have been around for equally as long time or longer and don't have that same
But
reputational thing.
that's the thing. That's a little bit of a lost art, and it's kind of part of the philosophy, if you want to say so. Ever since chefs started owning restaurants, which is a great thing, and a lot of chef-driven restaurants are exceptional, but sometimes they lack the 360-degree view of food, service, and atmosphere, right? So it's just a different perspective. Some do a really good job of it. Some focus more on the food. But I think, I go to a lot of restaurants that are like, just white boxes that the sound isn't that good and I can't hear myself think and things like that. And it just really where does that all come from? Whereas when I grew up and living in New York and New Jersey, it was all about the vibe. It was all about great places made you feel really comfortable, and they knew your name and they knew what you liked when you came in the door. And my dad would go to the same places and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where that philosophy comes back from.
But for me as well, a lot of the stuff for me, because my only world that I understand is music, is that I've met people that are way better musicians than me, actually way better songwriters, and have a tenth of the career because they can't figure out the 360 perspective of getting out of their own way. And I feel like a lot of restaurants I can go to and everyone's said, oh, it's so hyped, the food is great, and you can read about it on Eater, and then you go there and you're like, that wasn't really an experience. I don't,
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't. I root for everybody, and I think everybody's doing something interesting and cool and fun. But some things work a little bit better, and I just think it's. We offer something different. We offer a little comfort, a little hug, a little, and great food.
I was going to say, that's a great point. As a frequent diner, not during this pandemic, but as a frequent diner and patron of restaurants, I can name 3 or 4 places in LA that have that vibe, this being one of them.
Well, here's a perfect example.
You
During this pandemic, a lot of restaurants are letting go of their crew.
Right.
And saying, good luck, go get unemployment. And I'm not. I mean, I'm going to see this out, at least for 2 or 3 payrolls.
Are you hiring?
No, because you just said you don't have any talent. But that's kind of the difference because we're a family, and so you find out what people are made of during the tough times. It's always easy to be somebody's friend during the easy times.
That's the scariest thing right now. To be totally frank, I'm in the midst of, I've just finished my old business, so the timing of that was kind of nice, but I'm firing up something new, and there is something where I'm just reaching the person to the left and to the right of me, and as I was firing up these new hires, this happened. So it's I woke up this morning a little bit panicked, but, I think that in this time, you just got to ride it out, and people can't really be freaking out because it's going to be a ripple effect, I think, across the whole every industry if people start just shutting down right now, because who knows, this is like 1 week of like maybe 2 or 6 or maybe till the summer. It's a little freaky.
Or it may blow over just as quickly as it's going to come on. I mean, that's what I'm hoping. So, we'll just kind of play it out. But I think you have to stand by the people that have stood by you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my philosophy on it.
Let's go backwards, because I want to know, I think people who have no idea, who don't live in LA, don't know where Craig started or how he got to where he is, and then we can, probably learn more about how this thing fired up. How did you start in the restaurant business?
Let's see. I started, my first waiter's jobs were, putting myself through school. What's the easiest way to make a quick buck? Working at cheap Mexican restaurants in the Valley, going to school at Cal State Northridge, and then I kind of caught the acting bug probably around 84, 85. Got into an acting class here in LA, a lot of, familiar faces and regular actors and stuff like that. And then figured I'd get a job over here. I got a job. Oh God, it's
there's probably a clip out there of you and Golden Girls or Chips or something.
No, yeah, there is. But no. There's I got a job at a Mexican place called Antonio's that's still here
on Melrose.
Yeah, it's like the first. It was the first high-end Mexican restaurant.
Right.
So there I am. I'm probably 22 years old, a white guy wearing a big bolero tie, serving up $22 enchiladas, and not really knowing my craft. But there was an older waiter there named Rudy, who was a pro, and who that's the first person that kind of instilled in me that serving and being a waiter was a craft, that it was actually a career, and that you could actually affect people's lives. And if you really paid attention, there's a lot to learn, right? So when to kind of come into a conversation, when to get out of a conversation, what tables want you to be a part of the party and what tables don't want you to be a part of the party, what table comes in a really bad mood, and if you can just switch it a little bit and have them go out in a better mood than they came in, well, then you made a difference in their life, and they feel emotionally different about you. And that was kind of the first person. And then there were techniques involved, and carrying trays and carrying dishes and carrying glasses and just kind of moving in and out and pacing. There's everybody thinks that the waiter has nothing to do with the pace of the table and how things come out, but we really do. We're really in control, and a really good server can pace you without you even know you're being paced.
Wow.
Right?
That's incredible. I mean,
it is incredible, because I can't imagine the pressure of every night in here, you have 1,000 best friends. That's my weakness. I would be such a yes person that people would have a bad experience with me.
Well, no, it's a yes culture.
Yeah.
But you got to figure out how to yes it within the confines of what we need.
And you have some
too.
blocking and tackling here, so you're not always the heavy.
There's 22 tables, and everybody's a VIP, and everybody's a friend, and everybody's a regular, and that's the business that we've built. I've made them feel like it's their table.
Yeah.
So when they don't get their table, I've got issues to work through.
Yes.
But that's an upscale problem. Right?
And in your mind, you must have a hierarchy of how the night needs to flow.
Yeah.
And some people are easier than others, to be honest.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, people say to me, what is that hierarchy? And I'm like, well, it's
jazz.
our regulars. You know? And it's like there are certain regulars in town that influence this town, and they have to be paid attention to, and respect is deserved, and God bless them. And then there's our internal regulars, people you wouldn't know if you fell over them, but I'm loyal to them because they're loyal to me, and you wouldn't know them, but they get what they want because they're here all the time, and they're family, and they give the restaurant what it needs too. So it's interesting. And then I was in an acting class moving forward, and I was at Antonio's, and we used to go on special occasions to this place called Dantana's around the corner.
Oh, yeah.
And I literally remember I was invited to dinner there the first time, and I had $6 in my pocket, and I sit down for dinner, and I look at the menu, and I'm like, oh boy. So I literally order a light beer.
Yeah.
It was $3.50, and I left. I made an excuse, and I left because I didn't have enough money for dinner, and I wasn't going to stick somebody with the bill. And then for some reason, on a Saturday night, I don't know why, I left Antonio's, and I stopped by Dantana's, and Mike was there. It was a Friday night because Mike was there, and Jimmy the maitre d' was there, and I think I had a shot and a beer, and I just started talking to them, and they said, hey, have you ever been a bartender before? And I said, no. And they go, perfect. I go, what do you mean? They're like, we want somebody that doesn't have any bad habits.
Wow.
We want somebody with a blank slate. So I got hired in 1986
As a bartender?
a weekend bartender.
Wow.
And as a food runner, and knew nothing. I mean, I didn't even know how to hit a glass with the Coke, gun. I didn't know how to make drinks. I didn't know how to make the espressos in the cup. I didn't know. This is a place that hadn't hired a new waiter in 6 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
It had been open already for 23 or 24 years. It was old seasoned regulars and old regulars, and literally, like, I remember the first table I went to and I said, "Good evening, gentlemen, what can I get you to drink?" And they literally told me to F off.
Like, you don't know my order?
No, seriously. Like, I think for the first...
used to go to Dabney Coleman.
But just for the first 6 months, I literally would go home and, like, cry at night. Like, they would literally...
Wow.
They tortured me for the first few months. And then slowly but surely, you just kind of like, they're almost like breaking you in the way they want you to be broken in.
Any job that has an apprenticeship is the coolest thing in the world. That is another thing about everybody that I'm interviewing, whether it's like the top sushi chef in the world, someone who builds guitars, somebody who's a photographer. Almost everyone says the same thing. There's no roadmap to where they got, but an apprenticeship is something that is like at least teaches you how one specific person did it. And that sort of is something that gets carried on, the woodworker.
Right. So even though I technically wasn't a pro and I didn't think this was going to be my career, I was surrounded by a bunch of professionals. Mike the bartender, Jimmy the maitre d', Tony was a waiter there for years.
These were their real last names?
Yeah. They were just all like, they were all just there. But that's how they were referred to, and people loved them. And they, I mean, think about it.
What'd they call you?
Genius.
Hey,
it wasn't
Craig the genius,
and it wasn't a compliment.
Over time, it becomes the reality.
Genius, come here.
Damn, that's hard.
Yeah, it was rough. So, or the young guy. Where's the idiot? But you learn the techniques that they've learned over a lifetime and what makes them good at what they do, and sometimes they would say the most awful thing to customers, and they would get the greatest response. And I was like, "Wait a minute, what? How, where did that come from? You just told them to F off, and they giggled and loved you and gave you a hug." And I'm like, "Oh, it's all about personal interaction. It's all about connection. It's all about service." Right?
So you're screwed, Jared. You're out.
Well, you have that personality?
I don't. It's weird.
No,
it's like
he'd kill it.
That part I'm good at. I wouldn't be good at being able to have the proper hierarchy in my head of figuring out who goes where because.
But you don't have to because in the beginning you're a waiter or a bartender. All you got to do is be good at the skill that you're doing. So you got to learn how to pick up dishes in the kitchen and bring them to the right table and put them in the right order. That's step one. If you're a bartender,
are you willing to start there?
Yeah.
When this series goes to TV, there'll be a segment where I do the job. But I mean, I had plenty of shitty jobs back in the day. I'll admit I was not good. I always thought that's part of my problem is I always saw myself as like the boss, anytime I was anywhere. So like when I worked in a factory and I was like literally shipping stuff for my friend's dad for the summer, by like then the first week I'd be like the foreman, like, "Hey, you move that shit." Like, "Yeah, we didn't hire you for that." Lift up a box and go.
Right. And then that was, I mean, the interesting thing is you find that people along the way that are very happy to be cogs in the machine. They don't want to be the boss. They don't want to continue to move up the food chain. Like, there are busboys that don't want to become waiters. There are waiters that don't want to become captains. There are captains that don't want to become maitre d's. Like,
but as an entrepreneur, I think that's the biggest art is knowing how to make those people feel special and keep them motivated in that role for year on year. Because when you lose the best dishwasher or the best, whoever in this place, then you have to replace and onboarding people in this world. I'm sure must be like insanely difficult.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I'm continuing to hit payroll during this period because I don't want to lose these people. They're part of our place. I want to be loyal to them. And it's the last thing in the world people need right now while this world is going crazy to think that
20 years from
nobody's
now,
out there
they'll
that
remember
cares.
this.
Right. You know what I mean? And I'm hoping that loyalty will be paid forward.
I like that.
What do you got?
I want to just kind of ask you some questions about Craig's in general.
Okay.
For people, again, we're going to kind of paint a picture of because you ended up as like a manager at Dan Tana's after all that.
So anyway,
right?
yeah. So after a number of years, getting some acting jobs, this and that, I kept failing upwards at Dan Tana's, and I become a waiter, I become a captain, I become the maitre d' in 2003, and then I guess the GM, and it's running really, really well. And at some point, Dan says, I'm thinking about selling it, and I'm like, well, okay, well that's the next natural progression. Let me buy it. And there were several iterations of deals over the period. And then one day he calls me up in the office. It was about a month after my dad died. And he said, "I sold the restaurant." And I'm like, "Huh?" And so that was a really dark, hurtful time for me. And then my wife and a bunch of other regulars were like, Craig, look, you know how to do this. Just go do it. You know everybody's going to help you and support you. So I left there in 2010 of August, signed a lease here. We were up and running January 12th of 2011.
Wow, that's quick.
And the first few months, there was a lot of, like, this town, I mean, it is a small community, and they love a winner, but they also love to pile in on something that's not clicking.
Yeah.
And we had those moments, and it was kind of touch and go there for a minute. And that's when you realize that if you're willing to do anything to make sure that something will succeed, then you probably will. And that's
good advice.
I was making really tough decisions that were affecting people's lives, and I just was like, that's not good enough. I can't use you. That's not good enough. Can't use you. Like, you've got to go. You've got to go. And then so we just found our way. And then all of a sudden, I will say, I remember walking through the restaurant. We opened up in January, and I remember, like, in October thinking, okay, it's gonna be this kind of place. Okay.
Oh, wow.
It just kind of settled into itself
organically.
Well, because I gave it wiggle room, right? There were a lot of customers requesting certain dishes, and we would try them, put them on the menu. It just had a little bit of, like, I didn't have my hands on it so tightly, going, this is the way it is, and if you don't like it, tough. That wasn't the way it worked out.
Well, I think that's a good technique and a good, game plan for opening a restaurant anywhere, really, because you really don't know what's gonna hit.
To me, it just seems like the day that I walked in here, it had already been established for a few years. It just, for me, Craig's was cemented as what, like, I know I don't need a menu here anymore. They know my drink order, right. But I can't imagine what that day one period looked like. It was weird.
You don't.
Did it look like this?
It looked like it looked like this. There's a couple more tables squeezed in, and the artwork, the walls were basically blank with just some posters as placeholders, because I hate restaurants that are done.
Yeah.
Like, you can feel it when it's artificially been done.
Like a McDonald's just plopped down.
No, it's just like I feel like good artwork. A room needs to mature as the place matures.
Yes,
Is there anywhere that features your very unique collection of art online? Anywhere that people can go check out, because it's pretty cool.
No, but there's like a story behind each piece of artwork,
right.
And it all means something. And I know all the artists, and each something's important, and it's kind of organically grown over time. So.
Maybe go to the Audio Up Instagram page or something. We'll post some of the cool art.
Yeah.
I like
what's
the
interesting though is that, like, even
places.
during the daylight, this place still holds up. Like, sometimes I walk into, like, iconic bars, like on the Bowery and I'm like, shit, I played there last night. This is it. Like, during the day, like, and it's
there's
like the mop smell,
of, like stinky beard.
This is like this holds up during the day. Like,
well,
it's a well-worn room.
No, but we also, like, there's a lot of upkeep. Like, there's people clean. There's 3 people cleaning on a normal period in the world without this going on. There's 3 people cleaning every day, all day.
Wow.
So that's what you need to do, and that's what it needs. So we're just, we're good. I think it's kind of organically grown. We keep adding things, like these charging stations weren't here on the booth,
That's a good move.
But then again, people didn't have their cell phones with them.
Yeah, right.
So much.
Do you remember LA when they used to have the little, like, phones?
Phones, I remember
the
that.
delis, like Cantor's Deli had a phone you could dial, like a rotary dial.
Are you kidding? I remember saying to people, like, when I was at Dantana's, sir, there's a phone call for you, and they'd have to get up.
That's
and go
amazing.
To the phone.
Did they bring it out?
No, I remember Glenn Larson. Glenn Larson was the first person I ever saw with a phone. A mobile phone,
big
brick.
brick,
big brick
Zach
thing.
Morris thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
he was the first guy.
Oh my god,
that's what I remember. He was the first one.
Dude, he was awesome.
Yeah, Quaid told me what he had one of those suitcases early on. He'd call people and he'd go, "Guess where I am? I'm outside your house."
This is costing me $49 a minute.
But so when you first started, though, was there 2 things. One is, were there any sort of fairy godmother, godfather investors that helped you get out along the way? And also, did you feel any backlash from Dantana trying to slow or make it difficult for?
Well, I'm pretty lucky, right? So we've a lot of good relationships leaving Dantana's, and there are a number of investors in the restaurant that influence people around town. But then there's a lot of people in town that you just know that when they frequent a restaurant, other people frequent it, and that comes from 20 years of experience of running a restaurant. So I know to make them happy or to make certain allowances for them. And then as people walk in the door, you can see people mark who's here when they walk in the door.
Oh, yeah.
It also creates a better vibe. And so there were a lot of people that were very protective of this place and helped me work through the kinks. I don't think a lot of places would have gotten a second chance that I did, or continued to improve the restaurant and come back and give it a second chance. Like I would say to somebody, whenever they go to a new restaurant, they're like, oh, it was okay, the food was okay, the service was okay. I said, well, if you really like the owners and you really like the place, go back in 2 months. Because they'll probably have improved it. And, it's good to be supportive of other people. That's why I don't bash any restaurants. And I'm always trying to be helpful of others. I mean, we helped Catch get open. We helped Gracias Madre get open. We're
supportive of the street.
We're fans of restaurants, and we're fans of what they do for the economy and what they do. Look, where else can you have 85 people working? They're all throwing off payroll taxes, and the place is kicking off sales tax. Very few businesses do that.
A church.
Yeah. I don't know. But it's crazy. So you think about it, it has a big impact on local, city, and state communities and stuff like that.
I think it also shows a lot about where you guys stand, that look, I don't even, the food community is so weird, and I'm not really part of it, where some of my foodie friends are vicious. They go someplace once and they're like, didn't like it, it's over.
Well, that's why
this is different. This is
right. So a lot of those people, a lot of my friends would say, Craig, tonight's was not great. And I'd be like, cool, I'm on it. I got it. I totally, but you have to acknowledge that and say, I agree with you and I'm working on it. And then the next week or 2 weeks they come back and they go, it's better. Not where it is supposed to be, but it's better. And then we just continue to work on it. And then the other thing is the idea of building a diverse clientele, right? So I love older guests. I love middle-aged guests. I love younger guests. I love guests that are filthy rich, and I love guests that don't have any money.
Oh, good. I can come in.
Yeah, you can come in. As a matter of fact, well, you'll be able to come in too.
Yeah.
So, no. But the whole point is it's like I always say to people, it's like building a stew, and you don't want one flavor.
Yeah.
You got to have a bunch of different ingredients to make a great stew. And so you want that, you want those hungry young people that can't quite afford it, but they get a burger and a beer. But that creates an atmosphere, right? And then they're off to a club later on, or the older people at 8:30 go, it's getting too noisy, I got to get out of here. But it's all good, right? So having just one clientele or focusing on one set of people puts you in a bad spot, because if you're only going after the foodies, they'll do a lot like what Jared said. They'll be like, they'll try it once, they'll give their opinion, and they'll move on.
This is a bit of also
this. I wanted to be part of the
brand.
community. I wanted you to be here once, twice, 3 times a week. I wanted it to be a regulars kind of place. So that's why the menu is so diverse, and that's why it's so accommodating. And in the grand scheme of things, the price per person to eat here really isn't that high.
It's not that high. That's why whenever clients who've never been here before, look, and I'm sure I'll say this in my intro when Craig isn't here to listen to this, but it's one of the few restaurant places in the world that once certain people have enough money and can go anywhere, this is one of the last status symbols in this town where you invite a client out and they get excited.
Oh, that's cool.
Someone who's a banker on Wall Street who's been everywhere, and they go, oh, I've never been to Craig's. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then but you've built a brand, and I think that I'm a huge fan of brands, and I think that almost every person we're talking to is a brand. But even the recent addition of the ice cream that you've created, I feel like that's a way for people to opt into the brand if they can ever visit this place because they've read about it in People or Us or seen it on Entertainment Tonight or something like that. And what are the plans for that exactly? What do you? I feel like we skipped a few things, but I'm curious as to what the plan is with the vegan ice cream.
So, when a place is successful, everybody says open up another, and I didn't really want to do it because I wanted to stay personally connected to this place. Also, it's a tiger by the tail. I mean, operating a restaurant on a regular basis, if you're physically involved in it is a lot of upkeep. It's a lot of work. It's in the mornings, it's all financial. It's all making sure that the credit cards hit the bank. It's making sure that tickets were done. It's making sure that nobody, the percentages are right. And then in the morning, you've got deliveries coming in. You got to make sure that what is being delivered is what you actually ordered. A lot of companies will say, well, I didn't have this type of lettuce, so I gave you that type of lettuce, and it's double the cost. Or I shorted you on this, but I gave you that instead. And you're like, well, wait, I didn't want that.
Yeah.
Or they send you stuff that's inferior, like fish or something like that. Guys, that doesn't look right. Or meat. So everything's got to be looked at, checked in, and made sure it's the right price. Then it's got to be put away, cleaned, ready for prep. Then it's got to be prepped. Then it's got to be set for dinner time. The entire place has to be cleaned. Think about all the electrical, all the refrigeration, all the plumbing. So all that's got to be set and taken care of. You've got all the alcohol and wine. You've got all the different things that go into different cocktails: cherries, onions, olives,
Dice those
lemons, limes. The table lanterns, the salt and pepper. Has everything been cleaned? Has everything been wiped down? And then you've got, 31 people coming into work tonight. We have 9 waiters, 3 runners, 5 busboys, 3 bartenders, 2 hosts, 8 people in the kitchen,
Jesus.
2 dishwashers, the valet company, and that's all to sell a product that is going bad quickly,
Interesting.
and everybody's got an opinion on it.
That's crazy.
And if you share your opinion and you don't
Right.
like it, you just have to send it back or take it. Like, we don't get a lot of that, but because we have a very regular clientele and our food is really, really consistent. But if you think about the orchestration and all the different moving parts and having your table ready at just the right time, or, oh, we're not 4, we're 6, we're not 6, we're 8, we're not 8, we're 2. We're at 8, 8:30. We're at 9, 9:30. Oh my God, we're running late. We'll be there at 10. We're 4.
Can't even,
I mean, it's like all of a sudden there's so many.
I've
balls
made all
in the
those
air.
calls in the same day to him.
No,
before.
and now there's just these levels of communication, texting, emails, Instagram. I sent you a Facebook message.
Yeah.
Why didn't you answer? I'm like,
Oh my
I don't answer Facebook messages. Like, how many different channels of communication? Well, I don't understand how you make a reservation. You call.
Yeah.
ever
Most
heard of
people
that?
don't know that is the crazy thing about Craig's is my sister will call me, so my friends will call. I'm like, dude, I don't work at Craig's.
Just
It's
call.
like, just call. They have literally have a policy that's like, you cannot make reservations for the people. I tell people like, oh, that's a bummer, man. They're like, I'll go next time. I was like, no, all you have
Just
to do is
call.
pick up the phone and call during the hours when they're here. And if they have a table, they give it to you.
Yeah. And
How
if
do
we-
you relax, my man? Like, it sounds
Well,
like
that's an interesting.
He almost hit
that-
you on text all day.
I just got 3 while we're talking.
Yeah.
And we're closed.
Yeah. So what could they be asking you
all
about
bars
today?
and restaurants are closed.
So, how do you relax? That's an interesting question. How do any of us relax now with our phones? I mean, we're constantly going 7 days a week. We're always available. And if somebody calls me on my cell phone and I don't pick up, they're like, dude, what's wrong with you? I'm like, okay,
You okay?
Does that mean that I have to be available every 2 seconds? So it is an interesting question, but that's probably for a different show. But
Right.
But everybody says to me, oh, it's usually at about 7:30, 8, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. Place is packed. Got great vibe, the music's flowing, everybody's chilling, and then all of a sudden somebody goes, I'm going to open a restaurant. This
Yeah.
looks like so much fun.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, it is fun, and I love it. And it's one of the reasons I come in, because that's the icing on the cake. But to actually get it to this point is the trick. And then not only to get it to this point, but to keep it running efficiently and consistently. Because now you have like a stick to be measured by. And so people go, oh, we were in there 2 months ago and I had this and this and this, and this person was there and this person was there. And then you come in and like, it better be kind of the same.
Right.
Otherwise, people are disappointed. It's one of the reasons why we do so much to-go business. Because people wake up in the morning and they're like, oh, I'm not going to go out, but hey, I can get this and this and I can have it delivered to my house. And that's why we do so much to-go business.
It truly is like a lifestyle. Like anyone who says, "Oh, I'm going to open a restaurant," just by looking at the thing, the first thing I think to myself when I see all the work that goes in, because I do see the sort of circus of madness that goes into like the carefully balanced wobble. Every night you must go, "Phew, I got through another night." But
Yeah.
I go to myself, "Hey, I'm never opening a restaurant when I
But
see that because it's insane."
It is definitely like a chaotic ballet that, like, but I love it. I feed off the energy. And in fact, I don't like it if it's not like jumping. Like there's 3 levels. I call busy, chaos. Busy, organized chaos, and chaos. And I like to be right on that line between organized chaos and chaos.
when Jared walks in, what does it normally go from what to what?
It's just dreadful. It's
That's another level.
Yeah, that's just,
Organized chaos.
They're like, it's level
Dreadful.
Jared.
that's when, like,
We're like, we're going to have 2 more chairs this. Oh, we're going to have 3 more chairs this. We're going to have 5 more chairs this. And like this table now has like 12 people around it. But to their credit, all of a sudden a new table just shows up out of nowhere and our table just got bigger.
I'm like, I didn't know you could seat 12 people at that booth. Wow, that's amazing.
I was blown away the time we came here for dinner, and that's exactly what happened. All of a sudden, there were 2 like executives from some music production.
That was one of the first time
here?
I ever came here was pretty magical. That's for a whole other thing. But I will say that one experience converted me for like, I look at my life in 2 phases in LA: before I started wearing a hat, and after, and before Craig's and after, because those things happen around the. I got bought by William Morris Endeavor. And the first day I ever had money, I was like, oh wow, LA, you can do great things with like if you have a little bit of change in your pocket. And I bought the hat, and then like people started to like Jingle Jared as like a superhero, like in my own little world. It started to happen. And one of the nights that I was here, Patrick Weitzel like waved me over the table, and it was one of those things where you still have the back room. What is happening with that back room?
We're making a private room.
But that was one of those things where I was like, that's burned in my brain, and the next day I was like, man, I'm going to go back there a lot. And imagine
Did you meet T-Bone Burnett here?
I've met T-Bone Burnett here. I've met on a night after where I was here. I met Pooh Bear, like literally at the spot after. But like Pooh Bear in our origin story is like that. He said, "Oh, you were coming from like a dinner at Craig's, and you walked into like this other spot." The amount of like business I've done out of here, there should have been a check for you on the way out of Jingle
He's going
Punks.
to ask for some.
No.
Equity in the new company.
Somebody once said to me, they go, you shouldn't charge for dinner. You should just get like 0.001% equity in all the deals that have been made here.
The transactions that are happening here, but in a non-transactional way, is absolutely insane. Yeah. Like, and again, for someone who's not an LA person, we are speaking a little inside baseball. Like the people you see come in the door here every night, as someone who is a jaded LA person, I still go, whoa, like every celebrity imaginable. Like I've had dinner here with the craziest list of people, but even the only person I ever had dinner with who said that he preferred to use the back door was Weird Al.
Oh, really?
What is the back
because he just
door?
is very shy. It's just because he doesn't want to be photographed.
Just a private way in.
Private way in, but people talk about it a lot. Like, oh, Craig's went through the back door.
Yeah. Well, that way you don't get hit by the paparazzi.
Yeah,
right. Because they're out there.
Yeah, I mean it's getting a little less and less, and it's a bane, and it's also kind of a blessing, but we don't bank on it, and we don't communicate with them. And if you want to come in here privately and get in and out,
there's a way to do it.
We make sure you do it.
It's well, look, this is in my quest for speaking with masters of their craft across the world. This has been an honor chatting with you, just to hear a little bit of the insight.
Okay, so I'm curious.
Yeah.
Now that you have no shot at opening up a restaurant, what is it that you want to do?
Well, this is kind of it. I love telling stories. I really think that right now we are entering an age of audio where there's more people who are listening to podcasts in their cars, commutes, the smart home, the smart hotel room of the future. So I'm doubling down on basically doing what I was doing before at Jingle Punks, telling stories through audio, but this time instead of songs, it's going to be songs and stories. And right now, if you asked me a week ago what my plan was, I had it on paper. Right now, we are literally making it up as we go. We have 7 to 10 different shows in production. This one just being something for fun that we started because we have time on our hands right now. But Jingle Jared needs a new job, so hopefully I succeeded it.
Well, I love you, brother, and I'm glad, and thanks for having me on, and I think it's great.
You want to plug the ice cream and let people know where they can get it?
So you were talking about expansion earlier.
Yeah.
So instead of opening up other restaurants, we thought we would expand the brand through products, and the whole world's kind of going plant-based, and we've had a lot of success in the restaurant with plant-based items, and then everybody started going crazy over our vegan ice cream. So I, about 4 or 5 years ago, said, sure, I'll make a product. And it's kind of like somebody saying, oh, I'm going to open up a restaurant. Like, I had no idea what I was getting into. The CPG space is completely crazy. But after 5 years, we finally launched last March. We're available in a number of markets: Bristol, Air One, Gelson's.
Farm Shop.
We're at Farm Shop. We're at the Hollywood Bowl. We're at the Greek.
Anything in New York?
It's actually going to New York shortly. So as things start to open back up after all this crazy time, I'm sure we'll be available in a bunch of different places. We're also the base of the vegan shake at Fatburger. We're in 66 locations, and then available online at craigsvegan.com. People can just ship it on dry ice directly to their door.
I have another idea for a food you can sell out there in the marketplace: the Craig McMuffin.
A good idea. Really good idea.
We'll end on a positive note, and I'll say one thing.
What's he going to do in the future?
Yeah, what are you doing?
This is it, man.
This is the
Are you
last
hiring?
That's it?
If people don't watch TV anymore, I'm off.
Okay.
Middle-aged white guys don't work on TV anymore.
Yeah, you're at a disadvantage.
This is strange times. Everybody stay safe here, and that's awesome that you're keeping everything rocking and rolling here.
Yeah.
We're going to get out of your hair and let you unpack all the food.
All right. Thank you,
Elmo
guys.
bumps.
Later, dudes.
Later. Bye.
Thanks, Craig.
Thank you.
Audio up.